E ngā mana, e ngā reo, rauranga tēnā mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Hare mai, hare mai, hare mai. Hare mai te ranga te kaurapa, aku nui, aku we, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Hey man, before I like to start, I'd just like to thank you, David, for coming. Ki mo kamata, glauping a whainga maali whakawhaofa ki au ki au hen mo Devita. I he mamalu whale ko ni. Dave, thank you for coming, man, and thank you for taking time out to be here and to be part of this live stream podcast, man. How you been?
Cool, awesome. Kia ora, bro. Malale. Thank you, bro, for inviting me. It's awesome to be here with you today.
Hey, you just came from, we just had a chat off them. You just came from a meeting. How was that meeting?
Yeah, just came from a meeting at Panama Road School. They're just wanting to start up an alternative education program for children who are around 13 years old, who used to attend their school, were supposed to go on to intermediate and high school, but have dropped out at such a young age and are not attending school. So it's awesome how much they care for kids in their community, that they want to start an alternative education program, get those kids back in school, and hopefully I'll be able to do a little project with them next year.
For those actually listening, David Riley is actually a teacher and also a writer. And David, just a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from. I was trying to do a little bit of research on where your last name came from. So if you can just give a background on all of that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm Palangi. My background, my ancestral heritage is Scottish and Irish, a little bit of English, a little bit of Welsh, a little bit of Viking. And my parents, we grew up in Mangere.
275.
275, yeah. I grew up in Mangere. Went to Viscount School, Arahanga Intermediate, and MC, Sikta Heights. And then went to uni, Auckland Uni, studied social anthropology there. And then worked as a storeman for a little bit while I was just figuring out what to do after I graduated, and then worked as a storeman, did some freelance journalism because I always loved writing, and then decided to get into teaching. And I the last school I went to for teaching practice was Tangaroa College in Otara.
Oh, wow.
Fell in love with that place, and lucky for me there was a job there. As soon as I graduated, there was an opening, and so I worked there for 23 years and just finished recently to explore writing and doing workshops full-time in lots of different schools, but still hopefully maintain the contact with Tangaroa. And also I married, my wife is Samoan, We have 2 daughters. They're both at Macaulay, and we live in Clover Park.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, that's pretty much me.
Man, what a intro. You said you got into writing just a little bit. How long ago did you sort of delve into this writing?
Yeah. I wanted to be a writer since I was like 12. When I read this Kiwi author Barry Crump, and this was the first time that I read an author who wrote about people that sounded like my dad and his mates, and like we were a rugby league family, so we spent a lot of time at Manukau Magpies League Club. And this guy Barry Crump, the people he wrote about were like those people, people that I saw around me, funny stories, everyday people. And that was the first time I'd ever seen that in a book before, because most of the books were about people from overseas or people that have no connection to me at all. And I thought, man, that's awesome. I want to write stories like that. But I didn't pursue it because I had in my mind this image of what a writer is. It seemed too amazing. A writer seemed too mystical, and I thought they were like from LA or New York. They're not David Riley from Mangere.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So I thought, nah, who are you thinking you could be a writer? You can't be a writer. You're David Riley from Mangere. So I never pursued it until, so the only writing I did was school stuff, and then uni stuff, the essays and all that. But then it was always there, it was always wanting to come out. And then it wasn't until I was at TC and I was teaching English, and we had to encourage our students to read, and we'd take them to the library. Okay, guys, go find a book, come back in 10 minutes, show me what you got. It was disheartening, bro, really demoralizing to see them walking around the library and seeing nothing that they could connect to or relate to, And they wanted to see, they were like me, they wanted to see themselves in books, and they wanted to see things they value and see their histories and, see things that are meaningful to them. And they couldn't, so like you do, like most teachers do, when you can't find what you need, you make it yourself. And so I thought, okay, then cool, I'll write a book I started with a book about Benji Marshall, because I knew my students wanted to read about him, because that's when he was at his height, So I wrote I contacted him through his manager, asked for permission, they said yes. So I wrote the book about him, and then, and that's pretty much what I've done since then, is just try to write books that I know that, especially Pacifica and Māori young people will like to read, because it's about things that are from them, their histories, their cultures, their backgrounds, or things that they're interested in.
Let me just highlight the point. One of the things I picked up is that, I can't remember now, that you said, if it's not there, make it. And I think one of the things that I loved about what you just said there is the experience that you shared is when those kids, they went in, you know what, I used to be one of those kids. I used to be one of those kids when I was in primary that I'll go into the library. Don't laugh at me, David, but I'll just pick the book that had the best cover, cover.
Yeah.
And one thing that I liked about what you touched on is you made something for the kids. Like, obviously, they'll pick up a book for Benji Marshall, that sort of stuff. The writing, man, that's phenomenal. Like, you said when you were 12, you really figured out what you want, like, I when I was 12, I didn't think I figured out what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
What do you think it's inspired you? Like, what triggered you at 12 to say, okay, man, I'm going to be a writer?
A writer, yeah. It must be God, bro? It must be him. It must be because, I know that he's given all of us things that we love to do. And, they're seeds when we're young. And sometimes, we'll get a chance to nurture that seed and grow it and become it. Some people, their seed is nurtured really early, and they become, and they may change into other things along the way as well. But I think that was just the pathway that for me, that God had for me, is that through literacy, because I've always loved reading. The earliest photo that I have of myself, I found it the other day, is I'm reading. I'm like 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm sitting down, and there's a toy teddy bear next to me and a book in my hand. So I think, like, for all of us, like what you do, Barry, with your stuff, we have seeds in us of things that I reckon that God put those there, and it's just whatever our journey is of when those will start to grow and nurture. And I'm so grateful to the students I worked with who helped me to nurture and grow the seed that had planted in me that I didn't believe in, you know. And it took students who I was working with to help me bring that out. And now I'm able to do that even more. And also, what I'm really loving now is working with other people to help them write and publish books, and like working with kids in schools and working with communities. Like this year, I worked with the Tuvaluan community, and we created 8 children's picture books, bilingual ones.
Oh, wow.
Before there were none. There was not one Tuvaluan children's book. And next year we're gonna work with Kiribati, 5 elders from the Kiribati community. Same thing. There's not one book, you know, where a Kiribati young person can see themselves and see their language and their history. So I'm really excited to now be able to share and help other people create literature for young people as well.
I really love how you have molded your writing to sort of tie in to that culture, whether it's Samoans and stuff. I had a little read of this, and we'll touch on this later on, which is, I don't believe that's been happening, you know? Like, I don't know if I've been hiding underneath a rock, but it's not something that I've seen. And David, why do you think that hasn't happened in these recent times, especially with the technology that we've had? You would think there'll be books for the Samoans or the Tuvaluans or the Tongans. Why do you think?
Well, there's not enough writers. And the reason for that, only you would know, you know, people from Samoan and Tongan and Tuvaluan communities would know why there are not writers. But there's, you know, there hasn't been enough writers. I'm starting to see a lot of material being made by Pacifica people for primary children now and early childhood, bilingual stuff, which is really awesome to see. And there's still only, you know, a handful of people who write for teenagers, you know, and it's the same names that you will always hear, you know. It's Lani Young and Lani Went Young, and also Albert Went. You know, it's all the same handful. But that's one of the things why what I'm really hoping to do is so that we can create more Pacific writers to, you know, so we not only see books where Pacific people can see themselves in it, but also see their names on the front cover as well. As the author. That's going to be, you know, real cool to see.
That would make a difference. A difference if someone picked it up, like a book, and they'll say, "Oh, look, there's like a Polynesian," and maybe they could. Do you think some of the kids may relate to that more? Or
definitely. That's why, like with the MMT book, you know how we have was Alicia and myself.
Yes.
I approached Alicia and asked her. It was this time last year, and I said, "Hey, Alicia," because I knew that she was a teacher like me, and so I thought, and I knew she had contacts with MMT. So I said, "Hey, Alicia, do you think it'll be okay to write a book about MMT? Because I know kids will want to read that."
Of course.
And she goes, "Why don't we write it together?" You know? And when she said, I was like, "Man, that is awesome," because what she will bring to it is nothing that I could bring to it as a Palangi. You know, if I would have wrote about it, it would have just been a book about league. You know? But Alicia made it a book about Tonga, about Tongan culture, history, tradition, which is what MMT is all about. It's not just league, you know? So now when kids see this book about MMT, they see her name first by Alisi Tatafu and David Riley.
Oh, wow.
You know, so that's really important for them to see that.
Yeah, we'll talk about this journey later with the rise of the toa. David, there's also a little bit of a misconception that the kids these days, and help me clarify, I have my own opinions on it, help me clarify that some of these kids don't read that much anymore. Is that true? Do you find that these days?
Yeah, but I think they will read.
Yes.
If they see something where, if they can see themselves in the book, if it's something about, you put that MMT book in front of most Tongan children, they will pick it up and they will start reading. So who can say kids don't read? They will definitely read if you can create stuff that they want to read. You know, that they value, that they're
interested
interested
in. Food,
It is.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
you go to Polynesian, you put a salad, they probably won't eat it, but if you put some meat,
Yeah.
they'll probably eat
Alisi shared this video of this boy. He looked like he was about 10, Tongan boy,
Mm-hmm.
holding that book in his hand, the MMT book, running around his house going, I love this book.
Oh,
I love this
wow.
book. When have you ever seen
Yeah.
a young person, age, like a 10-year-old,
Mhm.
running around the house saying, I love a book? Hey, but it's because they love MMT.
Definitely. Of course.
So,
Of course. Once again, man, like I'm going to say this so many times, I loved how you've made that connection, that you've highlighted or you connected a book or someone, so the person or the child can relate and put them in.
Yeah.
Where did you get the idea from?
because that's what happened to me. You know, when I was growing up, bro, the reading that I did with the Barry Crump books,
Mm-hmm.
and also the New Zealand Heritage was another series, like encyclopedias that we had at home,
Mm-hmm.
and there was 21 of them, and they were just scattered around home, and every now and then just randomly pick up one, and they were stories of famous Kiwis like Hillary and Kate Shepherd and Sir Apirana Ngata,
Mm-hmm.
and reading those stories over time made me feel really proud to be a Kiwi. You know, made me think, man, Kiwis do awesome stuff. Kiwis do things that's the first in the world. You know, Kate Shepherd, she was the one who led the movement for women to vote. First country in the world where women were given the vote.
Mm.
You know, it was a Kiwi that did that.
Mm-hmm.
Sherman Hillary with Sherpa Tenzing, first people in the world to climb Mount Everest, was a Kiwi and a Tibetan who did that. So reading those stories made me feel so proud to be a Kiwi. You know, it made me feel like Kiwis are awesome. We're strong people. We do original stuff. It doesn't matter we're a small country. It doesn't matter we're pretty unknown. We can do amazing stuff in our world. And that's the thing that I know our kids they already have that. You know, they already have their pride in who they are as in their cultures. But being able to see it in literature as well is just really reinforces it for them to know, yeah, our stories are just as valuable as anyone's in the world. We can do great things in this world. Even though we may come from nations the world doesn't really know about, down here in the South Pacific, we can do stuff that has an impact on our world. And literature can help foster that belief in our kids.
Well, let me tell you one thing. You're definitely making an impact. Just a comment here from Meli Gavenga. She said,
Melly, hey Melly, she's one of our Tuvalu Northerners.
yeah, I think she's watching. And she's just saying, just basically thank you for helping us. Thank you for helping us with our cool Tuvaluan books.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, man, you're definitely making an impact. And, you know, like this one thing that you touched on, and us as Kiwis, like we definitely punch above our weight. And, you know, with the technology these days, it's, you know, we can make a difference in what way.
Yep.
We know we had a little chat offline about, we're going to just rewind back to that meeting you had, and we sort of chatted about some of these children not attending these schools. Why do you think that's happening, and how can we rectify and make that more, help these children out?
Yeah. There's probably like a lot of complicated reasons why,
Obviously,
bro.
yeah.
But one of them for sure is that they don't feel connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with the reading. You know, like if a young person doesn't feel connection to a place, then why will they go? You know, and especially when they're in their vulnerable age, you know, where they need a lot of guidance and positive role models in their lives, you know, people who care for them and people who find ways to do stuff that's different, you know, than the usual, you know, setup of what a school may look like, timetabling and, you know, the way that school structure works, uniforms, all that stuff, you know, people who will be willing to try things that are different to reach out, you know, to where these kids are, to their personal needs, you know, needs of their families. But connection is always huge for everything, people want to feel somewhere they belong. Kids want to feel that. And they want to feel somewhere where they're valued, where they're cared for, and where they can be them without having to be someone else, you know, having to step outside who they really are, but they can be themselves. So I think that's one of the things.
Just growing up in this age, David, you've been teaching. How long have you been teaching for, roughly?
Well, I started as a Sunday school teacher in Notara. That was
Still
early
teaching,
90s.
man. That's
Yeah,
still teaching,
that was
man.
my first teacher's college.
Yeah.
Because I actually got rejected from teacher's college the first time I applied for it. And then
Why that?
I don't know why. I think it was God, bro. Because I came straight from uni, and then I was working just for a little bit as a storeman, and I thought, and I was going to go to teachers college, but I think mentally I wasn't ready because I was still like, because the uni life is kind of like, it's a very unreal life, it's very academic, and you're surrounded by people, who knowledge, it's all about knowledge and academia and stuff like that, and but so for me mentally, I think I wasn't ready, so I reckon God closed the door. And instead what he did was he took me to join a church in Otara Good Shepherd Church through a friend at uni, joined the youth group, started becoming a Sunday school teacher, and that's where I learned, okay, cool, this is what teaching is. You care for people, you break things down, you spend time with people, you show them that you love them, you receive love from them, you receive teaching from them, and then became a youth leader, and then went back to apply for teaching again, got in this time, and now I think I was more ready, for that. And that was 97 that I started teaching at TC at Tangaroa, and then and in the last 3 or 4 years I've been part-time so that I can do teaching in other schools as well, and other places, and writing. So that's how it's been, a lot of teaching.
Man, I totally agree with you. Like, I totally agree with you. When something, like, you go apply for something, or you go and you want something now, and it doesn't happen. Sometimes it's God or Heavenly Father just saying it's not the right time. But if you don't mind me asking, you must have been gutted. When you must have been like, mate, this is what I really want to do.
I was gutted, bro.
And it's like, so I think for those who are listening and watching, like, sometimes things do happen. I'm a strong believer that sometimes things happen for a reason, and sometimes you just have to be patient.
It was so hard, bro, because I thought, because I was hearing on the news that time, this was early 90s, there's not enough male teachers.
Yes, I heard that as well. Man.
And I could speak Psalm 1.
And there was like a massive push for teachers.
There was push for teachers, and there was a push for teachers in South Auckland. And I came from South Auckland, and I could speak Psalm 1, and I had my degree, and I was a male, and, to me...
You ticked all the boxes.
I ticked all the boxes you need for a teacher.
Yeah.
And so when I got the rejection letter, I was like, oh my gosh, man, that was really hard, bro, because at that point, that's what I was thinking I wanted to do, And then working as a storeman, from that moment, for 2 years was so hard, man, because it just killed my soul, because it was so boring, and every Sunday night I'd be like, oh man, dreading going to work in the morning, it was just so boring, and just looking at the clock all day long, waiting for this to end, and it was just killing, so I but I do know that it was God who did that to humble me and to prepare me properly because I think I needed to be grounded, and that grounded me, working as a storeman, working as a Sunday school teacher. I think those things grounded me because I was pretty much, came from, like I said, in the academic world, where it's all in your head. And so God, lucky for me that I did have faith, that I have faith in God, and helped me, and did a lot of reading about, it's common, like you said, bro, it's common, lots of people go through it, and when you read about that and hear those stories, then you realize, okay, cool, it's part of my journey, and it will make me better for the next part.
It's easy to say it now, David, like when we go through these trials and when we have these rejections, then in hindsight, like 6 months down the track or an hour, we go, oh, okay, that's the reason why it happened, because I wasn't ready, or it wasn't just my time. But it is tough sometimes. What did you do to sort of like just overcome that? What did you do to keep busy, and what did you do to keep moving forward? Was, for those who may be listening, it's like, okay, so I've come across these hurdles before. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. Maybe can you give us some insight of what you did just to keep busy and just move forward?
The two things that helped me the most were, one was just being connected to the youth group that I was part of, and just being with those guys, because if it was just full on mocking all the time. You know, it was as a Otara youth group, Otara Good Shepherd, and it was just full on mocking sports. You know, it was just cool. So you know, and if no, you know, nobody wants to hear your sad stories for too long.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because everyone's got hardship.
Of course.
You know, so they will, you know, they'll encourage you when you need that. They'll mock you when you need that. So that was really cool because just being around people who, you know, loved you and you loved
Positive
them,
people as well.
positive people, and just doing cool stuff with them was really and helping to build my faith, you know, and yeah, just helping me to build as a Christian, you know, learning to have faith in God. And the other thing was reading stories about people who there were no podcasts in because I would have listened to millions of podcasts about this kind of stuff, but reading about people who overcame challenges in their lives. I've always loved that kind of reading, biographies, and you know, like those kind of stories are the ones that inspire me, and that's why I write a lot of those as well, because I find those kind of stories real life, you know, like reading Mark Hunt's biography. Have you read Mark Hunt's biography?
Not yet.
Like that kind of stuff, bro, is really, it just really inspires you, you know, because they come from similar places that you came from,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not the situation is pretty rough, but you know, people who come from areas where you come from, and you know, even just the principles of overcoming challenges in your life, and you know, when things don't look like they're going the way you're hoping, how do you keep going, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think reading was helpful for me, definitely, and also just being connected with good people.
Wow, that's
Those are-
amazing. As teaching, have you seen a bit of a different landscape or change in the students compared to back then and now?
To be honest, bro, no.
Yep.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still the same. They crave relationship with you as a teacher. That's the number one thing they crave, and they want you to know the subject you're teaching about really well, because they want to learn and they want to improve and they want to be connected to things outside of school and the areas they're interested in. Same thing as when I first started. That's what the students were like then. Yeah, maybe other things like devices and social media and all that has changed.
Yes.
Those things, yeah. But I don't think in terms of kids still have ambitions,
Mm-hmm.
you know. They still come from families who have ambitions for them, and they just want people who will help them achieve those ambitions. Those things haven't changed.
Mm-hmm. Man, like, I want to get back to the writing. I want to spend a lot of time on this. Like, you know, you kind of like highlighted we need more writers. How, if someone's sort of like yourself, figured out what they want in its writing, what are some of the things that you can say to them that, okay, these are the pathways, or this is the processes? For someone like me, I can't write to save my life. Thank goodness for the autocorrects on the phones, and the emails, and to make me, man, like, yeah. So for someone that's looking in to be a writer or want to take that up as a career, how do they go about in doing that?
Yeah. I think in terms of like any career, the main thing is like, don't wait for someone to pick you. Just go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you wait around, you know, for someone to pick you and say, I believe in you, your work is good, I'll give you a contract, or I'll give you an agreement, or I'll give you money, or whatever. Could be waiting a long time.
Yeah.
That may happen to a few individual people whose stories we will hear a lot about. But for most of us, we need to pick ourselves, you know, and just go do it. And we're like, with my writing, the first book I did was actually a book about Nuan heroes, and a publisher published it. But I didn't like the experience of going through a publishing company, because they owned the work and they controlled every aspect of it, the look of it, the price of it, the rights to it, everything. It was my work, you know. So after that experience, I said, nah, I'm not gonna wait. I'm not gonna wait for someone to pick me and say, I'll publish your work. I decided I'm gonna publish it myself, and so I did that. Made heaps of mistakes along the way, but I'm really glad that for all my work, I own my work. No one owns my work.
Wow.
I do, and that's how I believe, for me, that's the way I want it to be. I don't want someone to make money off my work, more money than I should make for the things that I've done. And I don't want someone to control where it goes, what it looks like, what's in it, when does it come out, you know?
Was that sorry to cut you, David. Was that kind of like does take away from your identity, eh? When someone goes, oh no, you want this red, and they want it blue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I want this font,
Yep.
but I want it this. Was it really does take it, and that's that's a good thing. You know, another thing that you highlighted for those maybe listening is, I don't want to highlight this, David, but like even through my journey in teaching and running my business and podcasts, is you are going to make mistakes.
Yep.
And you just learn from them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I made heaps of mistakes, man. Still making. One time I put my daughter's birthday as Benji Marshall's birthday in the book, and it was too late. It was printed by the time it came out. I was like, oh my gosh, man. You know, but I learned the importance of editing.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't realize how important editors were, you know. So that's how I learned that mistake. So you learn these things along the way, but it's all part of it, eh?
Man, that's amazing, eh? Amazing. Let's just talk about one on your I'm not too sure if this is one of your recent ones, and for those who are listening, Dave and I, we kind of connected in the launch of this Rise of the Toa book. Give us a little bit of background on this. I know you sort of touched on earlier that you and Alisi sort of this time last year?
Yeah.
Just give us a bit of a rundown or a story on how this all started.
Yeah. So I'm always looking for topics that I know our kids will want to read about. MNT is a no-brainer.
I love that, man.
Yeah. So I know, MNT, you know, for just being a teacher in Notara, excuse me, I saw over the last 2-3 years that the MMT players were starting to be more popular than All Blacks.
Yep.
Especially for Tongan kids,
Yep.
you know? And man, what a phenomenon, eh? And thought, man, somebody has to capture this in a book because kids will read this. So at the same time, Alisi was also having those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't know each other, but she was also having thoughts that she wanted to create a book about, because she was involved in, from 2017, maybe earlier, but she was involved in all the behind the scenes stuff, you know, and she was the MC, you know, at the games and all that. So she was right there in the middle of this phenomenon, you know, and she also she thought, man, this would be awesome as a book. So I think I'm not sure how I knew about Alisi. I think maybe Facebook. I probably saw she's a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and then I might have saw her credits come up, you know, on before a game, like MC Alisi Tatafu or something like that. I thought, hey man, I got to get in touch with Alisi about this book. And then so I contacted her at MC, and then we had a meeting over at MC, went to go visit her. Went to go visit her, have a talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then my idea was I was going to write it, and that she would just give me the contacts and, you know, get the permission and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But then her idea was, why don't we write it together? Which was like, you know, when I think of it now, bro, I just think, man, you know, this book needed to be written by a Tongan,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and with a Palangi supporting. And so we set about putting it together, and we worked on it through COVID, through the lockdown, the first one. We worked on it through there. And then Alisi told me that her cousin Sika Manu is an illustrator as well. So we thought, that's awesome. Let's ask Sika if he can do the illustrations for it. So we got funding. We were able to pay him as well. And so we got him to illustrate, which adds so much more mana, you know, to the book, because he was a captain, and he did exactly what Jason and Andrew did a little bit earlier, without as much fanfare, you know, that he actually did that same thing of withdrawing from Kiwis to play for Tonga. So it was just awesome that he was to be able to be part of it as well.
Man, it's so humbling, you know, and I already know, you know, when I first met you and just talking to you and meeting you this morning, you know, how you've just come across as like, you're all about the people. And one of the things that you've just touched on is that you wanted a Tongan to write this, and you actually want to become a supporting cast, you know what I mean? And you're happy to do that.
Yep.
Well, how was obviously we had the COVID and stuff. How did that throw any spanners in the work? When the first couple of
No, it didn't, bro. It just gave us more time. to get it done.
Yeah.
The only spanner it through, bro, was that they were going to bring us to Tonga, the Tongan High Commission,
Yeah.
to launch there.
Yeah.
And it would have been my first time to go there, you know, and
You haven't been to Tonga?
haven't been, yeah. So that
You've been
would
to
have
Samoa though?
been to Samoa heaps of times.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, heaps of times. We usually go every year
Yeah.
to Samoa. But I was really looking forward to thinking, oh man, this is awesome. We'll be able to go to Tonga and launch it there. And then, then COVID happened, and then we had to do a launch online.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Man,
So-
that would have been phenomenal for the kids, man. The kids would have just gone nuts.
Yeah,
I mean, in a good way.
Yeah.
If they're still watching.
yeah,
this
it would have been. See what because
Jeez.
it's DMA, bro.
Yes.
It's a book, but it's about them. It's about culture, and it's about their tradition and their history and their families. Yeah, so yeah, that's
One thing I want to keep on mentioning on this podcast is, on that night that we think, there were kids having this book, and I seriously, man, I'm not just saying this. I heard a couple of kids, because I was doing my live streaming and stuff, saying, "Oh man, that's like me in the book," you know. and it's and right at the start, you mentioned is you're trying to make that connection
yeah,
of trying to put themselves in the book,
yeah,
and making them, and that's going to help them pick up the book.
Yep.
Man, that's a phenomenal, man. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal. That's so phenomenal, man. And when you guys were writing this all up and trying to distribute it, I saw Alisi. Me and her is probably going to do another podcast on her side. How was the response
from the community.
from
you
the
mean?
community?
About the
Yeah.
book?
Yeah.
Man, Alisi, she's been all over New Zealand taking this book around. Yeah, I saw her posting stuff in Invercargill,
Yeah.
Christchurch, Wellington,
Dunedin, eh?
Dunedin. She's
Queenstown.
been everywhere taking this book.
Like
yeah,
Jacinta, eh? Like just dribbling around the book.
yeah. And if it wasn't for COVID, she'd probably be overseas right now in
Yeah.
America. And,
Yeah, man.
You know, she's just got so many contacts, eh?
Yeah.
We used to laugh a lot, man, because she said to me, Tongans are over the top, okay? And then when she sent me her thanks list,
Yeah.
you put a thanks acknowledgements list in the book. It was like 3 pages of names. And I said, sis, the people we're going to thank is the people who helped with the book, not every single person who's helped you in your life.
Yeah, man. Us Tongans, man, we do go OTT sometimes, mate. Just a little, buddy. Just a little,
Yeah.
way.
So if you do see the book, you'll see in the back
Yeah.
the thanks section that's got
Can you just touch on the character? Like this character,
Toko.
Toko. Touch on him and how did you come about in creating that character?
Yeah, I think I remember it possibly was Nua Finau,
Mm-hmm.
who I'm pretty sure I remember a conversation with Nua, and he told me that Alisi had talked to him about this book that we're writing, and he said, because Alisi was really strong in the royalty, acknowledging the royal family and the titled people and the churches, and acknowledging all those prominent high status people,
Yeah.
and then Noah said something about kids won't really relate to that,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the material was coming through about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, why don't you make it about how a kid could relate to the team, like a kid who goes to a game or something. And then that's when that part of it, because there's 3 parts to it. There's the profiles of the players as one, and then there's aspects of like the history of the team and culture of the team,
Yeah.
the second, and then there's that Toko story as a third one. It's a fictional story of a boy growing up in Tonga who has a talent and needs that talent to be nurtured and
Yeah.
needs to believe in himself, in the same way that the league players believed in themselves, and to draw on what's already in him as a Tongan young person.
Mm-hmm.
There's already greatness already there, and just needs to draw on that. And then finishing with a girl at the end, Sani,
Mm-hmm.
named after one of my ex-students, Sani, who's an actor now, and her wanting to be a pilot, and thinking, I can't be a pilot. I'm from a village in Tonga. How can I be a pilot? And then hearing the story of Camelia Linozaka, the first Tongan female pilot of a commercial airline. She's Hawaiian Airlines,
Mm-hmm.
So the greatness is already in there. And that's what that whole story was, to connect, so that these players are not just superhero figures that you could never be.
They're real.
They're real,
Yeah.
and you could do things in your life too. It may not necessarily be rugby league. It may be medicine. It may be music. It may be pilot, whatever. But you too can do great things, have an impact. You know, the same thing that I said, bro, when I was reading about people from my culture, you know, New Zealand's heritage, and reading about Kiwis, how they've done great things. It's the same principle again.
Man, it's amazing. Like I like the last bit, Doko, and his upbringing, like what you touched on. And it's like, man, every kid, I mean, let's just put the Tongan thing aside. I mean, every kid from Polynesia would be able to relate from that. You know, they come from the islands, and especially the oldies who have come here to give their children a better shot in life, or a better opportunity. And I like the other thing that you touched on, David, is it doesn't have to be rugby league. It could be anything, whether you're a baker or pie maker or a painter. It's just what your dreams and ambitions. I know we had a little bit of a chat offline of my wife, how she got a degree, and she went and taught in AUT, and her goal and passion is always wanting to be an event decorator. And then, you know, long story short, she's doing that full time, doing it for 4 years now, and she's been really, really successful. I touched on my sort of ambitions of earlier. It's like, man, one day I want to have a studio and just do this, and hopefully we can inspire. And it's just like, this is like what you're kind of like doing, you know. If we can make a difference in one or two people's lives, man, it just goes a long way. Yeah,
man, it's exciting to see what you're going to do, bro.
We'll hope so, man.
Yeah, man.
We'll hope so.
Yeah, it's a really...
Man, I'm so happy for you to be on here, man. Seriously.
Thank you.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, I know there's busy times, So busy times. I don't know if you're allowed to say, but I know we chat at the event of the book launch, and you touched on actually you had a few other projects coming up. Do you mind just touching on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I've just finished a biography of Joy Cowley, who's New Zealand's most prolific children's author. She's written over 1,100 books, bro.
Gee.
And she's 86 now. Eyesight has deteriorated, so she can no longer write. But she is such an amazing legend. Couldn't read when she was at school. And now she... so just telling her story is really, really awesome. Want to do a book about... I want to do a book, bro, about Kiwis of African descent. Because I was listening to a group called Black City, hip-hop group. It's a collective. And they were talking... I saw a documentary of them. They were talking about how they could never see themselves in popular culture in New Zealand as Africans. You know, they didn't see themselves anywhere. Apart from Israel, Adesanya. And Grace, the netball player. And I was thinking, that's the same thing again. You know, if our kids can't see themselves reflected in the culture and society and literature and stories, then then how can they know that they're of value? How can they know that they have a story and that their story belongs, that their story is important, their story adds beauty? And so I was thinking, man, you know what I want to write a book that highlights Kiwis who have African heritage, like Israel and other ones, and work together with them to create a book so that young Africans are Kiwis of African descent who now in their primary school or high school will not have to say, I've never seen myself in a book in New Zealand, you know, because at the moment, that's what they would say. I've never seen myself anywhere, apart from maybe Israel sports and music. You know?
Wow.
But there's more, you know, Kiwis of African heritage are everywhere, like the MP. You know, we have our first MP now, and they're everywhere, just like all of us are. So just being able to highlight those stories is something looking forward to doing next year as well. Yeah, so that's a couple of books, bro.
You touched on that author that... sorry, I missed her name, 86.
Joy Cowley.
Joy Cowley.
Yeah.
So she's just like... obviously she can't write, but does she just like... get someone to write stuff for her and publish, or... Man,
I'm not sure, bro. I think possibly she's no longer creating
content.
books, eh? Yeah. But man, what an amazing...
I've heard that name before, man. It's a legend, eh? Just like, wow,
Yeah.
man, jeez.
The Silent One, have you
Yeah.
heard that? There's a book
Yeah,
called The Silent
yeah.
One. Always used that as one of the texts when I was teaching English.
Yeah.
It's about a Fijian boy who's deaf and becomes friends with an albino turtle.
Mhm.
It's a mean story, man. Awesome story. So, yeah, really looking forward to publishing that one. And one other book is also a book about Paralympians as well,
Mhm.
that reached the Paralympics committee reached out to ask if could do a book about para-athletes.
Mhm.
And that's really cool because they have a story to tell too about ways that people with disabilities are portrayed and represented
Yeah.
in the media.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much, man, from reading that, about how, one thing that I learned was how they're sick of being someone's inspirational story.
Yeah.
They don't want to be
Yeah.
someone's inspirational story.
That's been beat. That's been
That's-
beaten so much.
Yeah.
eh? That drum, eh? It's just like, stop it.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm not your inspirational story to help you achieve your goal by looking
Yeah.
at me, and even just learning about.
So that's the media, though, eh?
That's the media.
That's the media.
Yeah.
man, you know?
So being able to counter that with stories from their perspective of who they say they are, like even terms like wheelchair bound, they would never say wheelchair bound,
Mhm.
a word like that, because to them a wheelchair is freeing. It allows them to move.
movement and
to go
do,
to places.
do whatever they want to do.
Yeah. So they don't see it as bound, and they don't see suffering. Even the phrase suffering from disability.
Mm.
But these are all things I've learned from Paralympics and speaking to Paralympians suffering from such and such disability. They don't see it as suffering. To them it's not suffering,
Mm.
So it's been really awesome to learn about how different people see themselves in the world, how they're portrayed in the world and how they want to tell it from their perspective, which is so much richer and different.
David, how many books have you written?
Nearly 50.
Nearly 50.
Yeah. Long way to go before Joy Cowley, 1100.
Man, I'd love to get you on your 50th, mate. Not your 50th birthday, your
Yeah.
50th. Hey, David, sorry, you won't be able to see this, but I've actually taken some screenshots. So for those who are actually watching this live or thing, this is your website, The Reading Warrior. I love it. Where do you get this Reading Warrior from, mate?
Yeah. Man, I don't know how I got that name, bro, but I think
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It suits you, man. Suits you. Yeah, so this is your, so I took a screenshot of your thing. So this is your Reading Warrior. So feel free to jump on and
get some Christmas books.
get some Christmas books.
Yeah,
eh?
get some
know?
literacy for Christmas.
And when I met you on, I don't know, it might have been a month ago, and I actually my wife knew of you. Yeah, so and he goes, oh, you should get him on your podcast. He goes, oh yeah, I will approach him. I'm not too sure what he'll say, but but it's And there's another screenshot of your screen. A couple of books there. How Tonga got its name. Quick, just summarize, mate. Summarize. I don't want to eat up all your time. How did they get their name? Like, I should know.
Bro, can I just talk about that series a little bit?
Yeah, go for it, mate. I've got all the time in the world, man.
Yeah,
go for
so
it.
that series is called Pacifica Superheroes.
Yep.
And the thinking behind that series is that our kids know Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, all those superheroes, but they often don't really know the superheroes that we have in Oceania as well, that we have also superheroes here. Like most people know Maui,
Yes.
but there's a lot more. There's way more. Every nation has their own superheroes. So these books, that's a series called Pacifica Superheroes, and they're illustrated by Chad Robertson, who's Samoan Niuean, ex-student of mine from TC. And the whole thing with those books is that they're a collaboration of, so far, mostly Tangaroa College alumni and myself as a Tangaroa College teacher. So like in that Tongan one, it's Chad did illustrations. The translation was by Julian Faletau and her mum. And the drums for the narration was by Sione Faletau. And so we all came through TC together. And then there's the Niuean book, which was illustrated by Chad. And also the music is by Candy Tusini Rex, is another TC student. So those books there are like collaborations between people from Tangaroa College community and others, and they're bilingual, And the purpose is to tell those stories of our Oceania superheroes, also promote the language. They're also narrated so the kids can listen to it as well, and they can hear the language. So there's a lot of different goals for those books. In terms of the Tonga one, how Tonga got its name, just one of the legends that are out there. But this was the one that the Maui got the fishhook from a guy named Talamai Tonga from Samoa. Tongans probably won't like this part. And he said, if you ever fish up an island, name it after me. So when he fished up Tonga Tapu, he named it Tonga after that Samoan fisherman who gave him the magic fish hooks.
Yeah. Interesting. Man, where do you get these ideas from, man? Like, that's a really phenomenal idea, just looking at this page for those just watching the live. Let me switch back. That's amazing, eh? Doing superheroes.
Yeah.
And once again, you're using that magic of trying to connect that person or that kid or that island to a book, then to get them pick up. You know, I'm going to use that model for my type of work, man.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, brother. But yeah, you got a lot of work. And when I scroll down, and not only children's books like Sonny Bill Williams, a few others, Benji Marshall, and one of the screenshots that I've just had here also, it's got Stephen Adams.
Yeah.
How did it go with him getting this book? How long ago was this one?
This was, bro, I reached out to him because I'm always like, I'm kind of like a fisherman. I'm always looking, you know, like going fishing where's a good spot to fish up some cool stories. Of course. So when Stephen Adams, this was before he got into the NBA, he was in college, or he was in the news often, you know, he's going to be a Kiwi NBA player. So I reached out to him then. Lucky I did, because after that would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And I didn't know him, bro. I just Facebooked him. And I said, hey, Stephen, I'm a teacher. I want to write a book about you for kids who don't really like reading. Would that be okay? Didn't hear back, you know, nothing. You know, I just messaged him. And I thought, he probably won't see this anyway. But then about 3 weeks later, he goes, sure, bro, go for it. Just send it to me first so I can check it. That was it. And I was like, sweet, awesome. So that gave me the okay to start contacting his family. And so one of his sisters was a teacher at Otahu College. And then she got me in touch with one of the sisters he grew up with, Gabby. And so the first thing they always said was, does Stephen know about this? And I was able to say, yeah. He said, go for it. And so they started to tell me all the stories, you know, the funny stories about growing up with him, and then also reaching out to teachers at his school, because I like to tell the stories of what the people were like when they were growing up in their family and at school.
Because they're like pretty much, sorry to cut you off, they're pretty much just everyday normal people like us.
They are, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and we already know what they're doing now, so we don't really need to know about that. But I like to find out how did they get there, and what are the things they had to overcome on their journey. You know, and hearing stories that Stephen went through was so challenging, man. You know, just the separation of his parents, then his dad passing away when he was in year 10. You know, it was really very challenging time for him in his life. And he was like one of those kids who stopped going to school, like the ones we spoke about earlier. He stopped going to school in year 10. And it was just so, you know, fortunate that he had an older brother who lived in Wellington, who took him down there, put him into a basketball school, Scots College, and, you know, then he was on his way, you know. But if he didn't have that person, people around him who cared, you know, and saw, you know, potential in him and just loved him, you know, which his brother did, then we wouldn't know him today as Stephen Adams. He'd be still in Rotorua doing, we don't know what he'd be doing.
I know he loves farming.
He loves farming. His brother said to him when his brother came and got him and said to him, bro, because he was at home, not at school. He said, bro, you can't be leaving school at the age of 14. What do you want to do when you grow up? He goes, I was thinking of actually being a farmer. And his brother goes to him, when have you ever seen a 7-foot farmer? Because they were really tall from their dad. Yeah, their Balangi dad. Yeah, so there's a really cool story, Stephen. But then, you know, I'm just so glad that I got in at the right time, because the book was already at the printer, and his sister contacted me and said, you have to pull the book. You have to cancel it.
Wow.
And I said, oh man, I can't do that. It's already at the printer. And she said, okay, don't worry. I'll sort it. And then I realized that a publishing company had made a contract with Stephen, I think it was Penguin, to write his biography. And so he must have told them, I already told this other guy a little while ago that he could do one. So I think I was very fortunate.
Gee, that must have been a bit of a... Yeah, no. So it's like, oh man, what's going on here? How did you feel at that time? It's like, mate, like I said, it's really at the printer, getting printed.
I felt stink, man. I felt stink because I never write anything without the support of the person
100%.
I'm writing about. Yeah, and then but it was too late then because I'd already paid for everything.
Of course, and all
I'd
the
done
work's
the writing,
done, and probably getting printing at that moment, binding and all the kind of jazz.
Yep. So I had to say, nah, sorry, I can't pull it. I've put too much into it, and everything's all paid for and everything. So, yeah, she said, he's a silly boy. Don't worry, I'll work it out.
At least they were really good about it, eh?
Yeah.
Like not really like just like stuff it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also on the screen, David, for those who are actually watching, once again, you're looking for a Christmas present, go onto the Reading Warrior website and get some books for your kids, for all nationalities as well.
Yeah.
And also those who are listening, do go and watch this. I'll probably have this on YouTube. And actually you can go back and watch the live on Facebook or YouTube so you can see these screenshots in the website. And it's readingwarrior.com. Is that right, Dave?
Thank you.
Also, man, like, for those who maybe don't want these hard copies, as you can see on the screenshot, there's an ebook as well.
Yeah.
How has it been, just touching on the ebook versus the hard copy?
Yeah.
Which one's more popular?
The hard copy is more popular, but the ebooks are really good for overseas people.
Yes.
So a lot of people in America and Aussie have requested the ebooks because it's just a whole lot easier for them to get. They can get it straight away.
Yeah.
And it's a lot cheaper as well.
Uh-huh.
But generally, people still like to hold a book in their hands and feel the paper and even smell it when it's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Just all that stuff is you need all your senses involved when you're reading. I feel anyway. I personally don't like reading ebooks.
Yeah. I used to like. To be honest, I'm not a big reader, but when I do read, it's actually stuff online. So I'm probably in that generation, and but saying that, there's nothing like the real thing.
Yeah.
It's just like live music, whatever. When you have that book, and actually, I actually lie. I actually did smell this book when I got it. Fresh. It's just like getting a new T-shirt and stuff.
Yeah.
New fresh smell.
Yeah,
it's just something about it, man.
Yeah.
David, just with the technology, has that made it easier in writing and producing these books?
Yeah.
And also in what way?
Yeah, anyone can do it, bro. You don't have to wait.
Yeah.
In the past, maybe you had to go through a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to send your work out and hope someone will say, yes, I pick you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do that now.
Mm.
You can pick yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it's probably the same in music.
Yeah.
So you can cut out that middle person who before was the gatekeeper who would say what is good and what isn't, what people want to read, what they don't, what the price will be, when it will come out, which is all based on usually financial aspects,
Mm-hmm.
For me, if I want to put a book out, I don't care what time of year it is.
Yeah.
I don't care about what the market says and all that stuff. I just put it out because I know kids will want to read it. So the technology, bro, I only work with like maybe 3 or 4 people. I work with in terms of producing the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the illustrator I always work with, which is Chad, and I have an editor that I always work with, and I have a designer who puts it together.
Wow.
And that's it. And I just use those same people all the time, and I don't have to do everything. I just need to do what I can do, which is the writing part.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do the other parts, and then when it looks like a book, then I send it to the printer, and then they print it. So it's, something that, bro, something I want to do is do some workshops with people, because I know a lot of people want to create books.
Yes.
And it seems like such a mystical process, It's not, so that's definitely something that I'm thinking of doing next year, some workshops to show people how they can create their own books, publish their own work without having to go through any gatekeeper to say, I pick you. I really strongly believe in picking ourselves, you know, and not having to wait.
You know, David, like you touched on that earlier. It's just like this day and age, with all the technology and stuff. Like, you know, I'll be honest. If you asked me 20 years ago if I was going to get into live streaming and podcasting,
Yeah.
I would have told you, mate.
What is that?
What is that? And like I knew what podcasting was, but
Yeah.
it was still back then, about 20 years or 10 years ago. But never in my life I thought to myself I'll be doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Never in my life I'll be doing this type of live streaming. But you know, you hit it correctly. It's like, you know, with the technology, you know, there's people just posting up music.
Yeah.
You know, on Facebook, on YouTube, and I don't know if you're someone I follow. It's Gary V.
Yeah.
He said there's no perfect timing. There's never a perfect timing. It's just go out and do it.
Yeah.
You know,
If anything, there's urgency, bro? That's what I feel. I feel there's urgency because the need is great, and we don't know how long we're going to be here. Hey,
Exactly.
So, man, we better get into it because we're going to be gone soon, and then, you know, whatever we've left behind, that's it. Our time is done. So I strongly feel urgency a lot because of those two reasons. Great need, and also just knowing that one day I won't be able to do this anymore.
Where do you write all your content, David? Like, help me paint a picture. You know, you hear of writers, they go to a quiet place, or they go to the beach, or I know one of my friends, she does writing. She likes to go to Muriwai Beach.
Yeah.
Do you fall in that category where you need a special place, or you need to be quiet to get the inspiration in it? Where does the magic?
Quiet.
Where does the magic happen for you?
Bro, to be honest, because, you know, I'm a teacher and also a dad and a husband.
Yeah.
It's just trying to find time wherever I can, you know, and usually that's either first thing in the morning before everyone's awake, or when they've gone to sleep, or some hour during the middle of the day when everyone is doing something else. So it's just trying to find moments. Everyone is different. I know that for sure. You know, some people will need to go to a dedicated space. For me, if I can just find a quiet place, can be anywhere, could be even a cafe, you know, as long as it's quiet, I can just focus and just flow for about 2 hours. It could be just sitting on my bed. It could be just, anywhere. It could be just sitting on the couch, you know, wherever I can find a moment is what I mostly do at the moment.
I think that's what you hit on the head, is everyone's different.
Yeah.
Because what may work for you may not work for me.
Yeah.
What may work for me may not work for you.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, man. So man, that's really, really exciting. I'm really excited for your new projects for next year. Can't wait till your 50th book.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you, bro.
Looking forward to that.
I'm excited about your work too, man.
Oh, just trying, man. Just trying, you know. And I think I'm just sort of in the same boat with you, man. If whoever listens to this and they watch this and we can inspire them to do something, and if they can gather one or two things that they can help improve their life and move forward, then that's great.
Because we're just ordinary dudes who just see a need and just try and do what we can with what God has given us, bro. That's all we're doing, and that's all any of us can do.
Just a comment from Margaret Robson.
Yeah, hey Margaret.
Margaret comments, and I quote, "Great work, David Riley. Through you and your writers, for you and your writers, you nurture the kids, feel that they belong in the book."
Yeah, Margaret.
That's one thing, eh?
Margaret is connected with the Indigenous Literacy Foundation in Australia. It's an organisation who works with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children and communities in remote communities in Aussie.
Oh, wow.
And they work and they create books in their own languages written by the community. So they send writers in there to work with the communities to create tell their own stories in book form and in their own languages as well.
That's amazing.
They are a huge inspiration to me, the work they do. And they're someone who I follow really closely, Margaret and the guys at Indigenous Literacy Foundation, because I find them, that's what I want to do. What they do, that's what I want to do. I love what they do.
I'll look her up and see what she does, man. So yeah, I'm delving into a whole new language right now, man. The whole book writing and that sort of stuff, eh? So, but man, once again, man, you're doing some amazing work, David. As we're about to sign off, is there anyone you want to do a shout out for or give thanks?
Yeah, just thanks to my family. I don't know if they're listening. They usually don't follow anything I do. They don't read any of my books, so
Yeah.
it's all good. But anyway, my family, my wife Debbie and my daughters Macy and Santana, they give me the space to do things. I'm lucky that I have a wife who believes in me. That's how I said before. You don't need anyone to believe in you. You actually do. I mean, what I mean is that you don't need gatekeepers, but you actually do need family who believe in you, encourage you, and tell you that you can do stuff like you did for your wife, bro. My wife does that for me, and Chad Robertson's wife, La, she does that for him, inspiring him in his art. So just so thankful to those family members in my life who encourage me, give me space and to do stuff and believe in me and tell me good things that I need to hear when I doubt myself. And thankful to my parents, for bringing me up in Mangere, and for blessing me with literacy. Their books were everywhere in our house when I was growing up. It was just a normal part of life. So thankful to them. And finally, just want to thank everyone at Tangaro College.
275.
274.
274.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Everyone at Tangaro College who I've ever had contact with, who's helped raise me. That saying, takes a village to raise a child. That's me. I was raised by the South Auckland village, and I'm so thankful for this village that has raised me. I'm so blessed to have grown up in this village, and I'm just very, very thankful for the opportunity to do something that I love, and that it also can help other people as well. It's a blessing. It's a great blessing for me. So Ofatu, bro, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you so much, man. It's an honor having you, and once again, thank you for taking time out from your family, because I know it's school holidays, and any time away from your family is precious, and it's something money cannot buy. So once again, thank for those who are listening and watching. Do go and support David. Let's just pull this up. If you're listening this on Spotify, go back to Facebook Live on the Lopstream page or on David's page, and it's readingwarrior.com, and he's got amazing books here. Another screenshot here of the other type of books as well. Another page, and it's the page of Stephen Adams. Once again, David, thank you so much, Mr. David Riley.
Malo, bro.
Thank you for having me. I know it's been a journey for us, and for those who are actually watching, please do subscribe, share. This will shortly be on all the Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all those listening devices as well. And if you know someone that may be inspired with this, do share and do like. And also spread some love for them. David, thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Malo, afat.
Malo, afat.